Hey, Christy and Evan and Mark Mueller, it's good to have you here. Glenn Aiken from Lubbock, Texas, welcome. We're glad to have you, Glenn. Kyle Rogers is in.
Hey, Titus, how you doing?
Javier Acuna from Costa Rica has joined us.
Oh, that's great. That's
Well,
awesome.
we're international, Greg.
I love it. I love it. That's so good.
I think we have some guys from India joining too. Gary Anthony joined. So welcome, Charlie Carr.
Hey, Gary.
Clay. Hey, Phil, good to have you here today.
We got 18, 10, 20 attendees already. That's great.
Hey, Marcus, John, Janice, welcome.
John Anthony, good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Rishi.
Cassidy Lackey, welcome. Glad you're here. Andrea, glad to have you online with us.
What a great group. Look at this.
Hey,
Wow.
Keith Watson, welcome. Glad you joined us today.
Keep scrolling in.
It's in alphabetical order, so yeah, I have to go back and forth. We're missing people, but we're so glad that you've come, that you're joined with us today. We have a phone call-in listener.
Okay.
Welcome to that person.
Dwayne, I see a lot of staff on here today from SOS.
Yeah, we have a few staff members there, which is good. Love for them to get access to you, the wisdom that you bring to things. We have 2 chats.
Okay. Dwayne, I woke up with a song yesterday morning, and Greg and Barry, and it was interesting. It's a song my parents used to sing. It's an old Bill Gaither song called "The King is Coming," and the opening line is, "Oh, the marketplace is empty, no more traffic in the streets, all the builders' tools are silent," and a lot of our SOS family are in the building community, and our heart goes out to them.
Yes.
No more time to harvest wheat. But it goes, in the courtrooms, no debate. And so even the courtrooms have stopped. But here we are, and having a marketplace seminar that Dwayne, you and Greg and Barry set up, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
It's good to have you here, Mark.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, Sherry Daniel, good to see you today. Thanks for joining us.
Well, Dwayne, that's a pretty good group.
Okay.
I just want to remind everyone there's a poll up right now. If you would please fill out that poll, that'd be great. We're going to close that in just a little bit, but in about a minute here. So if you'd like to complete that poll, that'd be great. Let us know who you are, a little bit your role, and what your biggest challenge is right now. And we'd love to have that. So please fill out that poll. Yeah, Dwayne, that's pretty consistent. So we probably should get started.
Okay. So should I go ahead and introduce you?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. So guys, I'm so excited to be able to do this with you this morning. I'm going to introduce to you Greg. He's my coach. He runs an organization called Coach Well Pro. He's an accomplished author. He's a speaker. He's dedicated his entire life to coaching leaders and to loving leaders. And 2 weeks ago, I got to actually attend this same seminar that you're attending today on how to lead in tough times. And there's just so much good, solid stuff in it that we're excited to bring it to you. Just from my heart, I want to say, Greg, thank you. Greg's been my coach for 3 years. He's helped SOS tremendously. He's helped me personally tremendously. And it's just so important in any season, but especially a season like this, that you have good advisors, that you have good people speaking into your life. So Greg, I just want to say thank you for all that you've done for me personally and all that you've done for SOS.
Thank you, Dwayne. It's been a pleasure. I mean, I love the Sower of Seeds ministry, how you guys help not only locally in Texas and the U.S., but around the world. And recently in Costa Rica, India, you guys are really helping people, feeding people, but also helping people who are stuck in human trafficking and helping them to be rescued. So thank you for your guys' ministry. It's a beautiful ministry. And we just love being a part of it. We love being a part of your support team as well. That's really a pleasure for us. And so thank you for allowing us to the Coachwell team today to be a part of what you guys are doing, a part of this great group. So welcome business leaders, welcome Sower of Seed staff, and Dwayne and Mark, it's good to have you guys here. So we'll get started, but thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for helping set this up. And Christy, thank you for all the marketing efforts to get us all together today. So if you have not completed the poll, would you please do that? We're going to close that right now. And Mark and Dwayne, we're going to go ahead and get started. So here's the poll results. Okay. So 42% own a business. We have 17% are executive team members. 8% manage and supervise. 25% are individual contributors. And 8% are ministry leaders. So thank you for that. Appreciate that today. Greatest challenge, I lost my job. Wow. No one has hit that. That's a good indicator. The greatest challenge is my business is struggling to survive. We understand that. I'm trying to adjust to working from home. Isn't that interesting? That's a new reality that was forced upon us, isn't it? I'm trying to manage a remote workforce. Yes, that was the highest challenge. 17% said that. And then right now, 50% of you said, I'm trying to figure out how to grow in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of this crisis, in the midst of this uncertainty. Well, today we're going to address that. Today you're going to receive a lot of hope today, a lot of practical wisdom. Barry and I will be hosting you today, as well as our team. We've been in this industry for 20 years. We've been able to help a lot of people, a lot of business owners be able to emerge out of 9/11 or the 2008 crisis and recession. We've lived through 4 recessions ourselves. So today we want you to be encouraged. So here's our agenda for the day. What we're going to do in this time is I'm going to discuss, leading yourself in just a few minutes. Then Barry's going to talk about how to lead your teams right now, that whole remote workforce. And then we're going to jump into that 90-day business growth plan. You're going to love that. We have a tool for you. You'll receive that today. And then you also have the opportunity to schedule a time with Coach Barry or myself. You'll receive a link to schedule a time with us to review your plan or help your team build that plan. You'll also be invited to the Coachwell community of a lot of other leaders from around the nation and different industries. You'll be able to be a part of that to access new content, other discussions, courses, and even join a core group of business leaders like yourself to be able to be a part of that, a mastermind group that you can virtually engage in every 2 weeks and receive a more practical insight, training, a collective wisdom from other group leaders, as well as from other business leaders across the country in different sectors. So we're so excited to have you here today. So as we start, let's try to minimize distractions. If we get a little bit, blurry, or we get a little bit caught within our video, that can possibly happen with this many people connecting, not only on this call today, but on Zoom and around the world. So we understand that. If our voice begins to crack or you begin to lose our voice, please let us know. Just hit the chat. We have staff monitoring that. They will then help us go off video. I'll be watching my chat now just to make sure that we're good. And just let me know, Kate, if we need to cancel our video and just go to audio. Just let us know. And then, if you have questions, please at the bottom, send in questions, even starting now. Send in questions. That we're going to have a great Q&A time at the end. So please do that and send in questions to us. You can do that at any time. You can chat to our staff at any time within the chat area as well, and just let us know how this is going. So again, welcome. So let's get started. As we get started, I just want to say and admit this. This is an unprecedented time. Never before in history have we had an economic and health crisis of this magnitude. We just haven't had it happen. As the military would say, we're in a moment of VUCA. What is VUCA? Well, this is an acronym for in a moment of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Aren't those words that describe really what we're at right now? And it's hard to know, when is this going to be over? When are we going to be able to open the economy back up? We don't know yet. So the questions we have to ask ourselves as leaders is, what do we do right now? How do we lead effectively in this time of great uncertainty? It's a really good question. Well, there are three things that Barry and I have learned, and other coaches and leaders have learned from past challenges that have hit our nation and our world. And that is, right now, effective leadership matters more than ever. This is a time for us to rise up, not a time for us to back off or to disengage or go hide. It's a time for us to engage even more. It's a time for us to deliver great character and leadership. And if we can, have answers, right? It's a time to help us to bring the right mindset to our team and our people and our customers and our clients. It's also a time that there's unprecedented opportunity. When there is volatility, when there is disruption, there is opportunity. And so today we're going to talk about that, and how can you mine for that opportunity, and then how can you begin to act upon it to be in a state of moving forward, a state of getting traction. How can you do that? And then the third thing we've learned as we've all walked through crisis is you can't go it alone. We need to gather like this. We need to support one another. We need to be in groups with other people who are also looking for solutions. We need to be in a community. That's why we're going to invite you to the Coach Well community, a large group of leaders from across the nation and Canada and other places of the world, to be able to join together. We will win together. We do not want to go alone. So with that, I want to ask you a question. In an emergency, when the oxygen mask drops, do I put it on the person next to me first? Or do I put it on myself first? Barry, you're probably on. In fact, let me introduce Barry to all of you real quick. Barry Engelman is my co-host today. Barry Engelman is a friend. He's also a 20-year experienced coach. He's been an executive in a large company. He also has owned his own business. He has a financial background, has been on Wall Street, which he'll tell you more about that. He lives in the great nation of Texas right now. So Barry, are you here, my friend? You want to come on?
I am here, Greg, with you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for being here with me.
You bet.
Is your picture up? I can't see it yet. Are you up? Yeah, you are up. Okay, great.
I believe so.
Well, Barry, answer this question for me real quick. In the case of an emergency, do I put the oxygen mask on someone else first, or do I put it on myself?
Well, my selfish answer is I'm going to put it on myself first, but I know that's not the right answer.
No, that is the right answer.
Oh, yeah.
That is the right answer.
That's true. That is. See, that I'm one of the ones that when they say, hey, can you pay attention? I'm obviously the one that doesn't.
No, you always pay attention. But the answer, it seems selfish, doesn't it? But the answer is the right one, because we need to first practice excellent self-leadership. We've got to get the oxygen we need. Otherwise, we're going to faint out at the moment when we need to be at our best. And so let me just talk for a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, about self-leadership. And then Barry's going to come on and talk about teams, and then we'll get to that 90-day business plan. The key in self-leadership is, what is your oxygen? What do you need to do to get your oxygen to make sure you're at your best every day and be able to bring character and to bring positive attitude and positive mindset. So let's talk about that mindset for a moment. If we sit and watch a lot of news right now, we know that our mindset is going to get barraged with negative input. So I recommend, to get some oxygen, that we limit how much negative input we receive. We need to be receiving positive input, whether it's music or inspiration, any kind of, whether it's prayer or scripture reading, whatever it might be. We need to be bringing in as much positive input as is possible. And I just want to say, it's worth the time to invest in you. We've got to invest in ourselves. The second thing that I recommend is that we really adjust to the new norm. We're in a new reality. So adjust to it as best as you can. Set up your office. Set up a routine. It's good to get up and shower and shave and dress, and it's good to go to an office, even if it's 5 steps next door to your bedroom. It's good for us to have a routine that we can get into and set up that routine to help us. Third is, in my book, The Enemies of Excellence, I talk about how to build systematic renewal in our spiritual, emotional, relational, and physical tanks. We are made up of those 4 entities, and we need to be managing that energy. And there are certain activities. For me, when I can go on a walk, or when I can go outside and go on a social distancing mountain biking trip, Barry, because you can still do that when you're mountain biking. When I get out in nature, for me, it helps my spiritual, it helps my emotional tank, it helps my physical tank get some refueling. So what are those activities that give you the oxygen so that you are at your best? I will say too, that there is probably some self-management in the way that we approach others. Because right now, if we can turn our attention to serving and meeting needs, we're going to immediately have a better self-concept, a self-image, better self-talk. So Barry, as we talk about leading self, that's a little bit of my encouragement. What are your thoughts about that? Do you have any reaction to that? How are you doing with your oxygen, Barry?
Yeah, it's a great point, Greg. And I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, and here's the thing: in crisis or not in crisis, it's an essential discipline. And I love the points that you gave. I think it starts in the morning with your morning routines and carries throughout the day. And we're actually going to talk about some of that, like how can you, even as you're going through your day, like grab the oxygen mask, put it on, grab some more oxygen for the next sort of lap around the track, grab some, like marathon runners, they grab that water as they're running along. I mean, so great points. And for leaders, and we'll use this now to, unless you've got anything else, I'll use this to transition into talking about teams.
Yep.
You good with that?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would mention is, which I didn't mention well, was, I think the whole element of hydration right now, good food, that's sourced, that's real food. I think, the sleep factor is huge right now. We need to be giving ourselves more sleep. I mean, even a nap in the middle of the day, if that's going to help you, to take that 30 to 45-minute nap, or even an hour. I think just some of that, Barry, some of that practical side, we need to give ourselves permission to be refueling. I think that's the key, is that we've got to keep working the crisis, but if we don't get the oxygen, as you know, Barry, as you and I have coached leaders through lots of these crises, we're just going to faint out at the wrong time. And so that's all I would say, is that giving ourselves permission and then taking the time to invest is really, really critical.
Yeah. You and I'll take the baton now. And
Thank you.
as leaders, you can't give away what you don't possess, right? You can't draw from a well. You can't draw water from a well that doesn't have water in it. So this idea of replenishing, and as you think about leading teams, your job oftentimes as a leader is, I'm going to walk around to the troops and I'm going to, with my bucket and my ladle with water, and I'm going to, here's some water, that type of a thing. If your bucket doesn't have water in it, you're going to be of very little help to your team. So I can remember back probably the first view that I had in terms of a leader leading through crisis was October of 1987. And for some of you on the phone, especially for those of you who, I'm dating myself a little bit. I was a year and a half into my first job out of college in October of 1987. And for those of you who were around and in the United States at that time, it was a major stock market crash.
Yep.
And I happened to be working at the time for the largest, at that time, most successful investment banker on Wall Street. So the stock market crash was very near to, where that war was being played out was very near. I was on the front lines of that. And I can remember my leader, our department leader at the time, when that happened, the next morning, he pulled us all together and he started communicating to us and talking about the crisis. And I remember that so vividly. And it was the first time where I learned this idea of control versus no control. Like there's going to be more things happening around you that are outside of your control. And there are going to be fewer things around you that are in your control. And those are the things that you should focus on, right? Control the things you can control and try to minimize the distraction of those things that you can't control. He says so much time is going to be wasted on speculation and hypotheticals, and it's not going to be healthy for you. It's not going to be healthy for our company and the world we serve. So we can't control the outcomes. We might be able to influence some of them, but there is one thing that we can control, and that is we can control our next decision as it relates to how we are going to interact with this crisis and the various things that come up. He said, work the problem, do the next best thing. Don't worry about, 30 days from now. Don't worry about, 2 weeks, we're going to have, restarting the economy stuff. Just work the problem today. Do the next best thing. So the question is, how do you effectively lead your team in a team of crisis? And there's two best practices that I want to give to you. The first one is, increasing communication. Now, as Dwayne said, he listened to us, present this information, Greg, a couple of weeks ago. And in the last couple, this thing has been so fluid and so fast moving that we actually now have the benefit of 2 weeks from the last time we shared this. And one of the things that I'm seeing is leaders doing a really good job of increasing their communication, right? I mean, for those of you in the United States, you can see from our president on down, I am seeing leaders communicate on a very regular basis, sometimes daily communication. But the question then is, okay, increased communication. Well, what should I be communicating as a leader? As I'm communicating out to my team, what should I be communicating? And there's three things that I think you should be communicating. And one is communicate reality, current reality. Where do we stand? Again, this thing is fluid. It's moving quickly. So the current reality is changing regularly. So being transparent with the people that you lead. I think we saw that, I think a good percentage of the people on the call are business owners. Well, you've got a front row seat to how your business is doing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And be willing to be transparent with your people and sharing with them the good, the bad, and the ugly. hiding from them the bad and the ugly, I guarantee you, it doesn't make them feel more comfortable, because everybody knows. It's like the emperor with no clothes. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows that there's struggle. And what they'll do is they'll discover one piece of the puzzle, and their brain automatically is going to put the rest of the puzzle together, even though they'll create their own box top to the puzzle. Give them the information. Let them know where you stand. The other is communicating confidence. Confidence is, we actually have a plan. We know what we're doing, like, we've got a crystal ball kind of a thing, but this is what we're doing. We actually have a plan. And Greg's going to talk about that in a minute, coming up with a plan, or if you have one, refining it for this time, but communicating that raises the level of confidence for your people. Oh, okay. They know what the current reality is. They actually have a plan on, this is how we're dealing with it. And then the last piece is, and Greg, you said it, today we're trying to communicate and give you hope. That's your job as well with your people, is communicating this idea of hope. Like, we're gonna get through this. And it's not positivity like an ostrich sticking our head in the sand. It's all good, it's all good, it's all good. No, it's communicating with a sense of optimism, that we have history on our side. We have the perspective of history, that we've gotten through tough times like this before. We don't exactly know what the path is going to be, but hey, for those of us who have a perspective from a spiritual standpoint, we know that somebody's in control and that he will guide our steps. And so a sense of, there is hope. We will get through this, especially as we all come together. Yeah. So that's the first one, is communicating, and leaders, be the initiator on that. Regular, consistent communication will be your friend in a time like this. And your communication is changing, right? At the very beginning, it was communication about, what's happening, our plans, and that. Over time, your communication is going to shift to things that are more of not just leading your team through the crisis, but eventually you're going to start talking about how you're leading your teams out of the crisis, right? Out of the crisis. That'll be a webinar for another day. But that's how you're going to begin to shift this type of thing. All right. The second one is, I'll call it a coming up with, and actually it was interesting because on the poll, it was one of the highest sort of rated like struggles or challenges right now, is this whole idea around a remote workforce. And how do I lead a remote workforce? If you think about it, if your company or your business had, 10 offices before this thing happened, and let's say you had 50 employees, well, you had those 10 offices and 50 employees. Well, for some companies now, they have 60 offices because all these employees have gone home and they're working from home and they're working remotely. And so in a remote workforce, there's two things that remote workforce is going to be encountering. The first one is they're going to be encountering this sense of being disconnected. Now, again, already in 2 weeks, we're seeing some great things happen. This format right here of what we're doing is a reconnecting format. But disconnection is one, and the second one is distraction. So let me just address real quick the disconnected piece. So these are just some quick hits on some tips, some things that you can do to reconnect your team together. The first one is morning huddles. If you're not doing this with your team and there is a sense of I feel my team is a little bit disconnected a bit, morning huddles are a really good thing. It can be, Zoom, Google, Hangout, whatever your platform might be. And this is just sort of like a checkup from the neck up with your team. It's like 10 to 15 minutes. It's not in depth of what are you working on and that. It's really just, hey, how are you doing? What's your day look like? Anything that we need to be aware of? It's just real quick hit checkup from the neck up thing. The other is this one is, and I know we'll get into it, or Greg, you'll get into it as well when we're talking about the 90-day plan, but this idea of one-on-one connections with your team. If you're not having regular one-on-ones with your team, when I mean your team now, I'm not talking, if you've got a company with 100 employees, it's not all 100 people. This is your immediate team. And hopefully the leadership structure of your organization is cascading this down, that everybody's one-on-ones are increasing right now, staying connected. If you used to do one-on-ones with your individual team members on a monthly basis, now it might need to be weekly, right? That goes back to that increased communication, not only with your whole company, your whole team, but one-on-one. The other is just using this technology to stay together, and this, creating virtual opportunities to come together virtually. I'm seeing people come together for virtual lunches. Some are coming together for virtual, happy hours, with or without alcohol. Whatever your culture is of your organization, that's up to you. But really just coming together and connecting for things that are maybe not business related. Just remembering that, social distancing is a physical thing only. We don't let this idea that we've all now gone and we're working remotely, that our physical distancing means that we're not connecting with our people. No, we actually need to be connecting with them more. And I'm actually seeing some really great things as a result of it. And then finally, Greg, is this idea of distraction, being distracted. I'm now working from home. I'm not used to working from home. It's new. And if you have, your spouse works, your spouse is probably working from home as well. And if you had kids in school, now your kids are home. So lots of different distractions. Here's an interesting thing. 2 weeks ago, we implored leaders to not assume that just because people are working from home that they're less productive. We talked about that there will be this natural curve. It's like the sigmoid curve, the S curve. There's going to be this natural lag as we learn how to do it. But I'm actually seeing now 2 weeks later, productivity going up. I'm hearing from leaders say, I'm actually more productive. I'm having better conversations with my team. So productivity, don't have the expectation that, okay, we're just going to have to live with a subpar productivity environment until we get out of this thing. No, you can be highly productive right now, which will lend itself really good for what Greg's going to talk about next, and that is the 90-day plan. The other is time blocking. Okay, so we're working from home. There's all these distractions. The way that we worked at the office is going to probably be different than the way we work at home, because the natural barriers of an office no longer exist. I'm not waking up in the morning, getting dressed, eating breakfast, driving to work, working for 8 hours, getting in my car, driving home. So those natural barriers, those natural systems that we had in place for organizing ourselves are now gone. Our whole life is happening in the confines. I'm at my home office, is happening in the confines of our home. So really understanding your calendar, this time blocking is really important. What I mean by time blocking is, if you'll remember this little anecdote, or whatever you want to call it, never begin your day until it's finished on paper. Never begin your day until it's finished on paper, meaning don't go into your day until you have spent time actually putting a plan together for your day, right? Having time. And then in doing that is, again, your day may not look exactly like it looked at the office. Greg even said it. Give yourself permission to be flexible with your hours, right? You may find if you have kids at home, working at, from 11 to 1, it might be lunch with the kids, right? Give yourself permission for that. Your best hours might be, you know, 7:30 in the morning until 9:30. And then again from, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Those, give yourself the freedom and flexibility to do that, as long as you're also remembering to turn work off.
Yeah.
Not with the office at home. It could be, especially for those of us that are prone to be workaholics, it's right there, and it's an easy thing to go back to. So this idea of understanding your calendar, being flexible with your time, I like to think back to, it's sort of a Swedish training, physical, running training thing called fartleks, right? It's, yeah, when I was a junior high school kid, I laughed when the coach first said it, but all of us junior high boys did, right? And I knew Greg was going to laugh at it today. But it's speed play. It's speed play. You'd sprint and then you'd walk. You'd sprint and you'd walk. Your day can look the same way. Be highly intense, focused for 45 minutes to an hour, then give yourself a break and go for a walk. Go fold the laundry. Go water the grass. I mean, allow yourself some of the flexibility and freedom to do certain things like that. So, never begin your day until it's finished on paper. Have a plan for your day and how you're going to do it. Give yourself the flexibility and freedom to invent and create a day that's going to work based off of the dynamic that is in your house right now. And then, the last one is really, it's about with your team, make sure that you've got really good weekly plans built out for productivity. And I won't go into that one in depth right now, because we're actually going to get into that in the 90-day plan. One of the disciplines of the 90-day plan is your team has clarity around the week and what's being tried to get accomplished. So, and the roles and responsibilities of that. So, increase communication, be very proactive with how you're helping your team create their remote work plan, if you will, to counteract the being disconnected and being distracted. So, Greg, those are my thoughts with regards to leading the team within the time that we have. We could probably spend an entire webinar just talking about the best practices of leading a remote workforce. But that's, I think, some things at least to stimulate some thought and for people to be inventive and creative in terms of how they're leading their team through the crisis.
No, it's excellent, Barry. I appreciate that. So communicate, more is better, right? More is better. Also, let's be helping this disconnection and distraction challenge that our remote workforce is facing. And then I like that, I like that speed play. I won't use the other word you talked about, but I like that speed play where you're building some sprints, building some time of rest, and then have your focus. What'd you say? Don't start your day until it's finished on paper?
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. That's a really good tip. So I think that's really, really huge. And I think having your people have these one-on-ones where they've got, where they have this plan that they can now go to with their own remote workforce place, whether it's in a closet or whether it's in a bedroom, wherever it is, they've got that plan that you've helped them create that they can now navigate all the distractions that are around them, right?
You bet.
Even the distractions that are right up here, that they have a plan that can help them. So great input, Barry. I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
Let's turn our attention now to leading the organization in this 90-day business plan. So please stay with me now, because this is, Susie's going to bring up the plan right now that you will receive. Kate's going to give you a link within the chat box as well. And as we look at this plan, I just want to say that whether you are a team lead or a business owner or you're a team member, please stay connected now, because you can bring this back to your team You could bring this back to your leadership. You could also utilize and augment it for your own team leadership. So just stay connected now, because this is really a viable tool that can help us. You know, a short-term plan is essential in times of uncertainty. It encourages everyone to switch off the negative noise and turn on the focus on what can be done. As Picasso said, our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success. So as we talk about this short-term plan, recognize you're going to be switching off now. You're going to switch off the noise and you're going to turn on innovation, creativity. You're going to be creating a new reality that everyone can begin to rally around and walk out. If we don't create the new reality, I'm telling you, someone else is not going to create it for us. So I understand the challenges that we face right now. Lots of uncertainty. I've had the privilege and the honor to be speaking with probably 60 companies in the last 4 weeks, from small to medium-sized to publicly traded, just from manufacturers to financial management to small business owners. It's been all sectors that we have the privilege of serving, our team does, and I get it right now. It's really, really strange. Strange is it's a good description for right now. It's hard to think at times, right? There's lots of negative noise. At times you may feel like your train of thought has been derailed and there's no survivors. You know, the options seem slim right now. Good ideas may be hard to find. But as Thomas Edison said, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. There is some new innovative ideas. There is a new reality that you will create and then walk out. It is there, but it's going to take a little bit of perspiration to find it. I will tell you that. Let's also not forget what Vincent van Gogh said. Great things are done by a series of small things being brought together. So a simple 90-day growth plan, it's going to take some perspiration, but it's going to work. You're going to see that you are going to be able to grab some ideas. Remember, ideas are very fragile. New ideas are very fragile when they're first born. They're very fragile. So protect them, nurture them, don't dismiss them, allow them to occur, allow your team members to contribute, and let's get to that 90-day plan because it is very, very helpful. I just want to say up front that a 90-day business plan is not a full business plan, all right? A full business plan, which Barry and I can help you if you want to build that, we can help you with that as well. But a full business plan has an executive summary, an elevator pitch, has a whole financial projections in it. I mean, it's got, you know, operational plan, sales plan, marketing plan. It's comprehensive, okay? And when we talk about this today, this 90-day plan is not comprehensive. It is in real time, right now, what can be done in 90 days. All right. As we look at the different components, let's start by looking at that a 90-day business plan starts out with a current state. Now, you may say, well, Greg, what happened to the SWOT analysis? Listen, I think SWOT is great, but a current state is more helpful in a current crisis. Now, just listen to some of these questions. Remember, you will receive this tool. So some of these questions are very holistic, and why we've designed it this way is it gets you down to the nuts and bolts of who you are and where you're at right now. For instance, where is our revenue slowed or stopped? Well, Greg, that's a pretty easy question. It's all stopped. Thanks, Greg. Our revenue's all stopped. But why has it stopped? It's a good question to find out why has it stopped. Not just that it stopped, but why has it stopped? Number two, how long will our cash sustain the company or the organization? Very good question to do. Kate and I spent some time in that, and we revisit it often, probably weekly right now, actually. Kate is our CFO and our COO, and we visit this often. Where can we cut or suspend expenses? You might be able to do a little rent, pause, contact, and see if you can pause your rent or if you can pause some expenses. It's good to suspend them for a short amount of time. Can we sustain our top talent? Now, I just want to say, please consider in this time to maintain your top talent the best you possibly can. I know we're all working through the government assistance in the CARES Act. Plans are getting funded, by the way. Loans are getting funded. I know it's a little bit slow. Some are getting double funded. We actually got double funded this week. I thought, what a great plan. I love this plan. We did give it back, actually, but it is happening. But as you're working through that, how long will your top talent be able to be maintained? Other questions? Are there some team members to release right now? This may be a time to release some of your team members that you've thought about. This may be that time to go ahead and do that. What business is staying with us, and are we in contact with them? Oh, this is a time to be in contact with your suppliers, your top clients, customers. We really want to be in contact with them. If some businesses paused, what's the plan to stay in contact with that business that's paused? How can we stay in contact with those customers or clients and then be able to bring them back on when the economy begins to open up more? Do we have the right marketing? Do we have the right sales? Those are great questions to ask in your current state. You might have other questions, but it's good to look at the brutal reality before we now turn our attention to what can be done. Because sometimes in that brutal reality, what you're going to see is there may be ideas that will emerge out of the dust, out of the ashes of our current reality. What can emerge? There might be some ideas that might germinate from there. That's why it's good to look at our current state. Then we turn our attention, and Susie, you can go there now. Thank you. You're so good, Susie. Okay, the stop, pause, pivot, start. Now, this is an interesting exercise. What can we stop? What should we pause? How can we pivot? And what should we get started at? Now, remember, we're looking at 90 days. We're looking at what can be done in 90 days. I have one of our companies, I talked to the CEO yesterday. They're going to begin to eliminate a lot of their SKUs, a lot of their products that they're offering, they're not going to offer right now. Because they're going to be able to bring on their workforce slowly that can only manufacture the essentials, their core products, and that's what they're going to be offering. So they're going to stop offering all their SKUs. They're going to pause new products. They were about to bring on a lot of new products. They're going to pause those. They're going to pivot to just manufacture what is essential, and they're getting started with that as soon as they possibly can. Because they've been shipping and their inventory is going down, 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 down. So a great exercise to do with your team. Gather them together and be as comprehensive as you possibly can. Because again, out of this exercise, there's going to be germination of new ideas, a germination of new direction, a new reality that we're going to create that will help us get there soon. But we've got to create that new reality before it ever exists and be brave enough to launch it to see if it actually gets traction. Then that brings us to the third part of the plan, third and fourth part of the plan. What we've done is develop in this plan now a way that you can create your growth goals, but also track them. Because it's important to track them to see what is actually getting results, what is actually getting benefit for our company or our organization. And then I just recommend three to five goals right now in the next 90 days. We only have so much capacity. There's a principle that I talk about to a lot of our clients and even our team members, and it's accepting the gift of limits. If once you accept the gift of limits, that you only have so much capacity, resource, energy, and time, then you make better decisions. If you go into making decisions that we've got all this unlimited capacity and time and energy, you don't. We don't. None of us do. So the key is accept the gift of limits, swallow that bitter pill, and then begin to look at what can we do? I mean, nothing is out of question. Let everything come in and then begin to pare it down to what are the 3 to 5 things we can do in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? What can we do to get the traction that we need? And then track those results. So it's a simple plan, but a simple plan can be powerful because a simple plan can help you focus. A simple plan can help you eliminate the distractions that you already have within your company or your organization. And a simple plan can begin to help you to get on some firm ground that can begin to help you move forward and get everyone involved. If you are receiving the payroll protection plan dollars, you've got 8 weeks to use them. So bring the team in, create your 90-day plan, and then launch. Launch with bravery, launch with courage, launch with anticipation, and then begin to be versatile, be agile, be able to adjust in play, in real time. And what you will see is that we are making traction. Wow, we're actually moving out of the crisis. We're not just in it to survive, we're going to now begin in it to thrive. And so, Barry, that's my passionate appeal for a 90-day plan. Love to hear some of your feedback on that, friend, before we move to our Q&A. So give me maybe a minute to 2 minute feedback, and then we can jump into. Please be putting your questions in right now for Barry and I. We're about to move to our Q&A time. But Barry, what are some reflections you've got from that?
Yeah, Greg, I'll tell you, I love first of all, I love the tools that are available. It just, the brain loves that kind of stuff. It just, to give us something to work through so that we don't have to reinvent wheels. So, I love that. I loved your thought on, I think it would accept the game of limits.
The gift of limits.
The gift. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to change my note on that, because I think that is so true that, more companies die of indigestion than they do starvation. They're even in the midst of crisis. I think it's the resiliency gene in us that we want to overcome. It's a natural instinct to, once we go through the grief process and we sort of acknowledge or confess, yes, we're in a problem. We want to fix, we want to repair, we want to get back to normal. And embedded in that is this idea of creativity and innovation. And I don't think we're going to be starved for ideas on how to come out of this thing. I think or being in the midst of it. I think it's going to be choosing the right ones. So I love that, and that idea of 3 to 5. And for some of you on the call, it might be 1. Like, just focus on the 1 and get that done and check that off. The other is, I love the action steps in developing these weekly, sort of a rhythm or a routine of getting it down to what do we need to get accomplished, like right now, on a weekly basis. And that even ties into, the one-on-ones. Our one-on-ones with our people, then we're coming around not so much to hold people accountable, like we're the action plan or the tracking cop. No, it's to come around with the bucket of water and the ladle, say, how can I help you? How are you doing? Are you on track? Are you off track? How can I support you? What resources do you need? That's my job as a leader. And the specificity of the outcomes. We want to have specific outcomes, and we want to have specific due dates, because the enemy of execution is vagueness, is being vague. So I love the plan because it drills down into being very specific. This is the outcome, and this is when we want to get it done by. Really great points. And I love coaching people through that stuff, because, all of a sudden that clarity that they get gives them energy, like eagerness, like to get up and get after it. So thanks.
Well, you're welcome. And, you know, before we jump into this Q&A, you and I are offering our time. We're offering our time to review plans with people. So at the end of this, you know, end of our time today, you will receive a link to self-schedule a 30-minute consultation with Barry or myself to go through your plan, to help you build that plan, to get it clear so that you are implementing your best ideas. You will receive an invite to the Coachwell community platform, and also, you know, you'll be able to consider a core group at that time. A core group is really a mastermind group, right, Barry? It's a mastermind group. We've got 8 to 10 leaders coming together. We're going to have our best ideas. People are going to present challenges. Then the rest of the group gives them answers or wisdom from their experience. Also, there's going to be learnings through there and courses, and we're going to be meeting together with other core group leaders once a month as well. So it's going to be a really beautiful Coachwell time together with other leaders from across the nation. So why don't we jump into that Q&A time? Kate, why don't you help us a little bit with some questions you've got? I see that we've got six questions down there. Why don't you feed us some of those questions, and then we'll see what we can do with those.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. I'll start at the top as they came in. So I'll try to kind of pick out where you were in your presentation. So let's start with Barry. You know, when you were talking about communication, one question came in: how do I know if I'm communicating too much to my team?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think how we'll do that, I'll go ahead and give some thoughts, and then Greg, you know, jump in as well. And these obviously are not rehearsed. So if we contradict one another, it's okay. Yeah, so how do I know if I'm communicating too much with my team? Well, one is I would probably ask your team, you know, hey, how is the level of communication? I don't, the very distraction I'm trying to help you alleviate, I hope that I am not a distraction by too much communication. But one would just be those honest, transparent conversations with your team. You know, how is the communication level? Is there anything that you're wishing that I would be communicating that I'm not communicating? Questions like that. Because I don't know how somebody would be able to answer the question, you know, am I communicating? I don't know if you are or not. And also on your team, there will be levels. Some people will want more communication. Some people will want less communication. So communicate, talk to your team, ask them what it's like. But I think my overarching answer is, I think you're going to be hard pressed to communicate too much. I don't think that's going to be the problem. I think the problem is going to be I'm not communicating enough.
Yeah.
And again, communication isn't a one size fits all, communicating to the whole universe of the team. Communication comes in the form of one-on-ones, just with your own leadership team, the company as a whole. Different forms of communication, this type of communication, recording a video and sending out emails. So Greg, you have any thoughts you want to add to that?
No, I think it's a good idea to ask him. No, for sure. That's great. I would just say there are some essentials that I think we're finding within our coaching with clients that is really helpful. You know, one is that each team member is doing a look back on Fridays, a look back on what happened in the week, capturing that, and then a look forward on what they want to accomplish next week. They bring that to their manager or their overseer, and they go through it together, and they confirm that roadmap for the next week, and then the person's off. So that, you know, there are some essentials like that is really critical. I know Christy's asking a question too, you know, about that, is how do you build in, you know, how do you do team building when everybody's remote, right? That's challenging. So I think the key there is that some of those essentials are good. The one-on-one, you know, having people think through what they're already doing themselves before they come to that one-on-one. And then you can add whatever layers are appropriate for your team. If you're going to launch a 90-day plan, which we recommend all of you do, you're probably going to need more feedback, right, Barry, than less, because you're going to need feedback from the field. Hey, is this working or not? You know, is this idea we had, did it work in reality? do we in real time need to alter it a little bit? So
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
All right, thank you guys. I have another question kind of about communication, morale that you, either one of you might want to take. How do I keep morale up when I'm going to have to lay off some of my staff? Tough question.
Go ahead,
Tough
Greg.
question. Greg?
Well, it is spring, and pruning your bushes is really a good idea. No, I mean, that's going to go over real well. No, I think the challenge is you have to, this is going to have to be one of those brutal reality conversations. I think you'll have to go to the team and just talk about the reality that this time is going to require change, and change for all of us is challenging. And I think the best, most forward honesty is going to be your best policy in this, and just sharing about the fact that not all of us could stay. And so we've had to make some very challenging choices that are difficult for all of us. Every person is important, but at this time we had to decide who could stay and who we could not continue to support. We wish them the best. We're going to do our best to help them, find another place that they can serve. But we had to make those decisions, and we want you to support us and be with us. So that's a sample script. I don't know if it's the best script, but Barry, you can certainly add to that.
I think it is the right script, because it's an honest script, and it communicates your heart, right? I mean, bad news. Bad news doesn't get better with time, and as much as we want to, in the risk of using a bad analogy, put lipstick on the pig. I mean, it's a pig conversation. It's just ugly. It's dirty. It's like, it's hard. And, but it is reality. And and so I think the script is right. The other is, if it's happening a lot in your organization, like there, it's, then I think that, follow the communication down into the organization. What I mean by following it down into the organization is, as leaders, let's not be afraid to talk about it in our one-on-ones. Hey, we just had to share that news. How did it rest with you? How are you doing with it?
Yeah.
So that would be one. And then the other is, don't have it be a trickle out kind of thing. Like, to the extent that you can, if you're going to have to do layoffs, doing a little bit on Monday, then a little bit more on Friday, then a little bit more next Wednesday is I think poor leadership. I think it's not getting ahead of the layoff curve. I mean, try to really understand and anticipate what's going to happen. And, if you're going to have to do it, try to do it in one fell swoop, if at all possible.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the ripping the Band-Aid off. You don't want to do it little bit by little bit. Just rip it off.
Barry, the only last thing that I would say too, my friend, I just thought of is I would add vision to that discussion too. Yeah. That, vision of where we're going, you also would have hope in that, because you do need to help the people who are staying to know that we are going somewhere. This ship is not going down, go grab your life preserver quickly. No, it's that, no, we are going somewhere. We're doing the best we can. And we do have a vision. We have a plan. We're going in a direction. I think that's not wrong to mix that with that announcement and discussion as well.
Yeah, and to the extent you can, the people that are being impacted by this, we're going to help them to the fullest extent that we can, because we still love them and care for them.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Going to jump down a little bit because Rob submitted a relevant comment with a follow-up question. So the Stockdale paradox suggests that facing the grim realities of any situation, balanced with never losing hope that things will work out, is critically important, and that optimism can be as detrimental as pessimism. How important do you believe sharing the grim realities with staff is, and can being overly optimistic be a drain on morale?
I have been accused of that over-optimism challenge. And I have seen how it can be detrimental without sharing reality along with it. So I do think there needs to be reality along with the optimism, and the optimism cannot be overbaked. I think it is critical that the optimism is not overbaked. I think it's okay if you are a person who tends to be positive like myself and see the possibilities within the challenge. It's okay to share that, but I think we do need to have as much reality as we can share. But the challenge too, Kate, and is that in others is that you've got to share certain things at certain levels. You know, I mean, you have to be careful about what is shared at certain levels within your organization as well. So I just think depending on the type of person you are, I think it's okay to have reality along with optimism, and then be careful that optimism is not a July 4th, fireworks are going off, it's all great, don't worry about it, Barry, it's all good, man, it's all blue sky. That can be very detrimental to people, and they wonder if you're just not facing the reality yourself. So Barry, with that, I offer it up to you, friend.
Yeah, no, I think those are good thoughts. Share this quickly. I think what comes to my mind is share what is helpful and edifying for building the body up. What I mean by that is what I'm going to share going to be helpful for the people who are hearing it to actually remain productive in what their role in the organization, in the body of, if you will, is. And don't burden them, as Greg was saying, don't burden them with information. It's like speaking in tongues, right? If they can't interpret it, like they don't know what to do with it, it's not helpful for them. So the idea of sharing is good. Oversharing when they don't have context is very dangerous, very dangerous. So, yeah, love that question. Love that question.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. I think we have time for a couple more questions. So maybe we'll shift gears here. Let's move to Christy's question. Do you have any ideas for how to team build in this remote environment? Just some quick tips for how to do that.
Virtual lunch together is cool. You guys can do maybe a happy hour together if that's appropriate for your group. Mm-hmm. I think you can also recommend and feed out certain positive, maybe a positive course for people to take, or maybe you do a book reading together that can assist right now. I think it's feeding positive content that you guys can do as a group would be helpful. Maybe you could go on a social distancing walk together. I don't know. Maybe you all walk 6 feet apart through the park and say hello. But I think it's anything you can do to increase connection and communication and sharing. That right now could be your hallmark for team building right now, is that we're sharing, we're connecting, I'm feeding them positive content and input that's real, and then they're able to share back. I think that's the thing that we've got to avoid isolation right now. So anything we can do to help people avoid isolation, just think along that factor of keeping connection. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, and I'll give a different perspective, and it's one that sort of Greg, you just talked about. And you have to define, well, what do we mean by building a team? Because those are really good examples of how we come together as a team and continue to encourage one another and develop together and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, there's nothing that builds a team, like brings a team together, as is rallying around something very, very meaningful. So when you get your 90-day plan put together, all of a sudden you have given your team something to rally around, and the very nature of getting after that all important work is in itself team building. So that would be my perspective there.
Kate,
Thank you.
I see a couple of questions by Gary. Did you want to handle those, or you want to? Did you
Yeah,
want to go into kind
definitely.
of a speed round so we can get through some of these? What are your?
Yeah. Let's address Mark's question. He put it in at 8:45. Can you give your thoughts on regaining momentum? Some businesses have had their doors shut by the government, food, gyms, etc. Maybe just weigh in on how are we going to come out of this? How do we regain momentum?
If you are in a people-centric business that requires people to attend your site to make it happen, that's a very difficult one to answer. I mean, whether you're a restaurant, a gym, you know, a dance studio, I mean, whatever it might be, those kind of things are going to be very difficult to open. I don't know if I have an answer for that, to be honest, right now. We're probably going to have regional openings. It's going to go by regions, districts, that are going to begin to be open across the nation. But the timing of that, I do not know. Those businesses, we need to be praying for. It's very difficult to have any answer for that at this point. Barry, you're welcome to jump on that one, but I don't know if I have an answer for that.
Yeah, the thought that I have is, obviously you're each going to know your own business, your own industry, probably better than Greg and I will know that.
Yeah.
So the specific aspects of how you build momentum coming out of it, the specificity of it is going to probably come from the expertise of you and your leadership team. So that's one of the things that I would do is bring that team together. And whether you're the leader, and I know that we had a good number of people on the call that are individual contributors, you can lead from any seat in the organization. But as leaders, I alluded to it earlier, is this idea of not just leading through a crisis, but how do I lead my organization out of the crisis? Because the situation that we're in right now, right, we're settling into our routines and a new normal. But remember that this new normal is temporary. It's not a permanent new normal. So I would bring my team together and start getting them talking about that. Really, really good question. Hey, gang, we're going to have to lead out of this. And what does leading out of this look like? How do we gain momentum coming out of it? How do we bring our team back together? And those types of things. I just did a video on, leading out of it. And I think we'll go ahead and post that to the Coach Well community. That gives some tips, some ideas of maybe the conversation starters that you can have with your team to begin to gain momentum coming out of this.
I would say one more thing is, I can see Orange Theory right here, and Orange Theory was one of the hottest new offerings within Central Oregon here, and the owner, which is in our core group, one of ours, they're doing virtual training right now. So they pivoted and quickly went to virtual training, and it's been helpful for them to stay connected to their community. And then they're also meeting as a group, preparing for what are these specific offerings once they get opened back up. What are the specific offerings to re-engage that community and to bring them back in? So they are talking about specifics upon the opening, but they're also doing a little bit of a pivot right now and switching to virtual training. Well, maybe that can help a little bit. Some other questions you've got, Kate?
Yeah, thank you for the thoughts. I'm going to jump to a question submitted by Gary. So you spoke of keeping top performers, and yet those are the individuals with the most options, often leaving you with poor to moderate performers. Can you speak more to this challenge and keeping those high-performing team members engaged and on your team?
So I don't know if I quite understand the question, Gary, but I think what I would say is that, if you have top performers that you are maintaining, which we do recommend, that they are highly involved in doing anything they can in managing all other team members and finding some productive ways to be more efficient in our organization, to look at the way that all of our processes, to looking at and generating new ideas for business. They are highly involved in working and enterprising as much as they can to help the organization in a 90-day plan. What are we going to do out of this? How can we be better with our own processes now? What needs to change within our core business? But also, if you have poor performers, I recommend that you really look at whether that poor performer is going to change or not. And if you have a poor performer, we are recommending that you strongly consider that person's longevity in the organization. Because if they're not going to be able to be coached to a higher performance or to be more self-directed, we do recommend that you look at that closely and consider whether that person is a key team member to stay with the organization. Even prior to COVID-19, were they a key team member to consider change, saving and keeping? And even now during COVID-19, are there a person that you want to have on your team coming out of COVID-19? Barry, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just a different perspective on it, because I actually think that question and addressing it is right in terms of how do you keep top performers on your team could in and of itself be a webinar all to its own. And
certainly,
I think addressing that, if that's a challenge for your organization, all I would say is that what this crisis may have done is shed a light on a problem that pre-existed, right? This crisis didn't all of a sudden, say, oh no, we're not doing a good job with our poor performance. No, if you're not doing a good job now, you probably weren't doing a good job back then. So there are some specific things that you should be doing in any season, crisis or not, in terms of engaging and supporting and building up your top performers. The positional shift that I'll make to that question is actually one of, how do I lead out of this crisis, is understanding that millions and millions of people are out of work right now. And the question is, what are you doing as an organization to look out and say, what's the top talent out there that I can go grab right now, so that as I'm coming out of this, I've just improved my team.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of top talent out there right now at very affordable prices to capture it, and
that are out of work, not because of anything that they did or didn't do.
No. Yeah.
Right? Just unfortunate.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys. We're going to close with one final question, then we'll bring our co-hosts, Dwayne and Mark, back on for a minute, just to close out our time here. So let's talk about, most of our clients or customers are very distracted right now, which typically affects projects and slows progress. How do we keep our clients remaining positive and focused?
One thing that we're recommending is that you reach out to them just to serve them right now. Connect with them, engage with them, serve them. Just check in with them. How are you doing, Dwayne? How are you doing, Mark? How are you doing, Barry? Greg, how are you? Is there anything I can do to assist you? And I was with a team yesterday and helped them build a 90-day plan, and just encouraged them all and gave them some good thoughts to actually think about, because I could actually do that to be able to come in with them. So I think the key is serving them right now is the key. I don't think we ever stop marketing or sales, but I think it's a different approach right now. I think the marketing is, how are you? How can I serve you? And I think the sell is, there anything that I can do to assist you? I mean, that really is the messaging right now that I think is most well received and invited in, and is sensitive to the environment that we're in. It doesn't feel pushy or off-setting. Barry, you want to add to that a little bit, my friend?
Yeah, I'm sort of, maybe I'm going to be the let me give you a different perspective on things. I would go back and say, continue, and it goes along your theme, Greg. Continue to sell to your clients and customers. And what I mean by selling is one of the best definitions I ever heard of that word is uncover needs and create solutions. Uncovering needs, and embedded in the root of that, the essence of that is what you just said, serving. I'll sit back and think, oh my gosh, I can't. My company, what we do, Greg, is we weren't making cars and now we can make ventilators. It's like, okay, GM can be like on the front lines and they're on Fox and CNN being touted as, oh, they're doing these great. It's like, what can I do? I can't make ventilators. I can't make face shields and, but how can I contribute? Well, I can contribute to my client, and you and I are doing that, Greg. We are offering up. It's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Is we're uncovering needs and trying to create solutions. And how can I come alongside you in this season and actually help you? And I am not going to necessarily put any monetary equivalency of transference of value in the ask in this. I'm seeking to serve. So communicate, and don't assume that they are so distracted and being bombarded. I want to be the last one to be that distraction. No risk. Pick up the phone, call them, and engage with your customers and clients. And if they are distracted, maybe you can help them get undistracted.
Yeah. Like it. Well,
Go ahead, Greg.
no, thank you, Kate. Did you have any more questions, my friend, you wanted to bring to us?
No, I just wanted to bring Dwayne and Mark on, see if they had any final thoughts, and let you guys take it from here.
Okay. Thank you, Kate. Thanks for your help today. Mark and Dwayne, are you guys there?
Yeah, we're here. Just want to say thanks to you and Barry and your whole team for taking this time to share this with us. There's so many key things you said today. A couple of them that I latched onto was, if you don't sit down and make a plan and do the things necessary, it's not just going to happen. And the second one is that people rally around inspiration. They rally around something meaningful. And, I have a different perspective because I'm trying to get food in our area right now. And I'm talking with executive team members at like AT&T and the Mavericks and different places. And, what's interesting is how many believers, how many people that God has positioned in a position to really bring about love and compassion and care in their community right now. So the things that you do as a leader, you're called to these places, and at a time as this, and some moment you'll have, God's going to use you to do amazing things. So stay the course.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, what's been exciting for me is, first of all, this morning, seeing how many marketplace leaders have joined us. And, we're all ministers in the marketplace. And ministry is just basically serving. So if you want to be great in your organization, if you want to come out of this being an even greater person and organization, learn to be the servant of all. And so the more you serve, the more you pivot out of your current or recently current strengths and say, how can I adapt that to the needs in the marketplace? We can do it. Here's one example that's been real exciting for me. Here, a local family, very prominent Bass family, has actually reached out to us, heard about what SOS was doing in terms of normally our feeding programs have been more prominent in the summer when school's out. But as SOS has reached out to the local community during when school's out and actually doing more feeding, they reached out, heard about it, and said, how can we help? So that was a pivot of not only SOS, but them pivoting toward us. So this time is a great opportunity for every organization and person to come out of this stronger and we've got to do it together. So Greg and Barry, you guys are an incredible blessing to each of us, and I know to everyone that's listening today.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure to be with the SOS family today, family team members, family business leaders, so and with the two of you. And it's a pleasure to do this together. And I think that's how we're going to win, right? We have to come together and serve each other, assist each other, share our wisdom, support. And so, as we close, I just want to remind all of us, Barry and I are here. You'll be receiving a link. You're welcome to schedule a time with us. Just go right on yourself, schedule a time within our calendar. We'll get together with you and assist you with your plan. You'll be invited to the Coachwell group to be able to be a part of our great large grouping of other leaders. You'll be a part of that as well. And so, if we can help you in any way, we're here. Thank you again for the time together, everybody. It's so great to be with us, and it's so good to be with all of you. And I'm just glad that we could all gather from around the world today. Dwayne, we had leaders from India, is that right? We had leaders from India.
Yeah.
So
India and Costa Rica both.
Okay, that's great. That's really fun. Well, you are in international ministry, so that is fun. As we end our time, I'm thinking of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. So I think the key is that there is help, divine help for us as well. And so there's things that we can do. There's things that we need to be remembering. There is someone greater than us that can assist us as well. And so thank you, everyone. Thanks for being on this call today and this session today. This will be recorded as well, so you all will receive that. And we look forward to our next discussion with you in the days ahead. Dwayne, did you have anything else you want to say, my friend, before we go?
Hey, I thought it was tremendous. Both of you guys are so wise. I love that you have a little bit different perspective too. But also, I also was just noting that once people signed in, we didn't hardly lose anybody during the whole time. They were engaged almost the entire time. So we didn't have 100 people. We had, 38 most of the day. But I think you provide some real value. So I know you did for me. Every time I talk to you, I get value out of it. But thanks for taking the time, and thanks for making the offer to our friends.
Well, you're welcome.
Pleasure.
Okay, friends. Well, blessings to all of you. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay.
And, we will talk soon, I'm sure.
Okay.
Mark,
Yeah,
I'll
thank your team.
Oh,
Thank your team for us, Kate, and Susie, and Dave.
We will. All right, my gentlemen. Thank you so much. You guys take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.